Hey, hello, how do you do? Shady Doorags here, and welcome back to Episode Rundown, where I, Shady Doorags, run down the episodes of Miraculous, Tales of Ladybug and Cat Noir. And today we're looking at Season 3, Episode 8, Oni-Chan. And this one, man, so I watched this episode immediately after I uploaded the last one, and I was so excited to talk about it afterwards, but I ran into some trouble with the last episode. Some company copyright claimed it, which is, I guess, something I'm just gonna have to deal with if I'm gonna use footage in these episode rundowns. But I've been so excited to talk about it because the copyright claim has finally been dealt with, and I just really want to go through this through this episode. When I saw the title, I thought it was gonna be about somebody's sibling, like with the episode with Alia's older sister. I thought it was gonna be something like that, but no, it's something completely different. Anyway, let's get to the episode. So the episode starts with Lila. Her mom calls her on the phone, leaves a message.
I'll be home late tonight again, but I'll do my best to be there this weekend.
This is basically a setup for the next scene. Immediately it transitions to the next scene, and Lila, the first thing she says in the show is a straight up lie. She lies to Nino. She tells Nino that her mom wants her to go to something, but she can't because she's falling behind on schoolwork, and she's just gonna have to let her mom down. And then she sneaks in there that, hey, Adrien promised to help her, but he's probably forgotten, and she doesn't want to hound him because she doesn't want Adrien to think that she has a crush on him and blah, blah, blah. And Nino believes this because the show makes, this lie right here is not that bad. I've complained about Lila before in the past episode where her lies just seem so unbelievable. Yeah, everybody just for no reason believes her, and the show wants me to think it's because she's a good liar. This lie right here is pretty believable. Nino has no reason to not believe any of the stuff she's saying. It transitions to the next scene where it's after class, and Adrien comes up to Lila and says, hey, yeah, sure, I'll still help you with your homework. And this part made me laugh so much. It panned over to Marinette, and she's sneaking, and it's like Marinette doesn't even get a line, and they just show her sneaking over to spy on Lila. I just thought that was hilarious. Alia comes over and tells Marinette she's got nothing to worry about because Lila told Nino that she doesn't have a crush on Adrien, and I'm just they make Alia so dumb when it comes to Lila. If Lila was a liar, like Marinette constantly claims she is, why would Marinette have any reason to believe that Lila is telling the truth when she tells Nino she doesn't have a crush on him? But anyway, Lila is cozying up to Adrien. Adrien, good guy Adrien, he wants to help her with her homework, and she says, why don't we go to your place? It'll be quieter. She knows that Marinette is listening. She's kind of trying to bait Marinette. She does a couple baiting in this episode. She tries to bait Marinette, and it works fantastically. Adrien says nobody's allowed in his house. His father wouldn't approve of that. And Lila grabs him and pulls him and says, I bet I can change his mind. And I came very close to disliking this episode because of the first 10 minutes. They do the same shtick with Lila where they want me to believe she's really good at lying to people, that she's really good at convincing people to give her what she wants. And I don't buy it. I'm sorry. Like I would say the first episode, it was believable to an extent, but since that last episode, with Vanisher, I think not Vanisher, Chameleon, with Chameleon, ever since that episode, I just don't believe Lila is a convincing liar. And it also has partially to do with the voice acting. Now, I don't blame the voice actress for this. I blame the direction that she's being told to go, because the voice acting itself seems talented and fine, but for when like this is supposed to be a liar, the inflections are not really convincing because she's constantly talking fast and it constantly sounds like she has something to hide. Now that might work with innocent people, naive people like Adrien, but with some of the other people she comes up to, like the bodyguard and Natalie, she lies to them in this episode. It shouldn't work with them. Or Alia. Jeez, I'm having trouble remember Alia's name. It shouldn't work with Alia, but the show wants me to believe it works with everyone but Marinette, as well as but Adrien, but that's because Adrien finds out later. But anyway, so Lila goes to the bodyguard, and they don't show her saying what she's supposed to be saying, but the bodyguard winds up letting her in the car. And Marinette says, Marinette says there's no way that the bodyguard will let somebody in the car with Adrien when there are past episodes where she was let in the car with Adrien. I don't know. Maybe it's because I'm watching him in a weird order. But yeah, so Marinette goes to stalk Adrien, and this part, like, again, these first like 5 to 10 minutes really made me come close to making me not like the episode, because I was throwing a fit when I was watching this. Marinette chases after Adrien. Tiki says, Marinette, Adrien knows that Lila is a liar. You don't have to do this. And she says you should just trust Adrien. And I think Tiki's got a good point. Not necessarily about trusting Adrien, but just that he knows that she's a liar. So why is Marinette putting so much stock into it? And then Marinette says,
I know, but if she keeps on lying like she does, she's gonna end up hurting someone. I refuse to let her hurt Adrien.
Okay, so that annoyed me, because it's like, she's lying. How dangerous can she be? But the only reason Marinette is technically right is because we live in this is a world full of superheroes and super villains. So yeah, her lies can't do, like they show in this episode, that her lies actually can get people hurt. But that's because she's working with supervillains. Like if she was working with the mafia, yeah, her lies could get people hurt. If she was working with anybody who's willing to do harm, yeah, her lies can get people hurt. And I know they mean hurt on different levels, which they'll show later in this episode. But it seemed like Marinette was specifically talking about like physical pain. But anyway, Marinette follows Adrien, and Lila talks to Natalie, because of course Natalie's not going to let anybody in the house but Adrien. And she tells this lie.
What will your father think if he finds out about your lower grades, Adrien? Who will he blame?
This annoyed me, because I really, really like Natalie as a character. I really like how strong and firm she is to other people. And it annoyed me that they wanted me to believe that she would believe Lila. Because if Adrien was struggling with his math, why would she not just... Like, he has private tutors. I think she's one of his private tutors, if I'm not mistaken. He had private tutors before he went to school. Why would she not just hire him a private tutor to better his grades? Like, why would she let a stranger in the house, especially when Gabriel hates other people being in his house? Like, that was completely an out of character thing for Natalie to do, and it's all for the sake of making Lila look like a good bad guy, a good liar. The episode continues, and Lila is in Adrien's room chatting up a storm, just, lying. She notices Kagame and gets slightly jealous, but doesn't let it show. She sneaks through Adrien's things while he's not looking. Adrien's like, hey, I thought we were here to study math, because she's just talking up a storm. Meanwhile, Marinette tries to sneak into Gabriel's house from the side wall. And this is where it's a kid's show completely. And I was just, I was face palming, but yeah, it's a kid's show because this firefighter comes and he sees Marinette trying to break into this person's house, and rather than completely stop her, he tells her she's doing it in an unsafe manner and that he can't let her do it in an unsafe manner. Marinette tells him, hey, the boy I love is in there, he's being manipulated, and so he helps her by tying up the trash can she's using together. He helps her break into somebody else's house. Like, if you believe her, why not go up to the house and tell the people in the house? Like, as the adult, why would you not do that? But he helps Marinette break into the house because Marinette is the good guy. So, that's what you're supposed to do. There's another reason for this scene, but I just thought it was so silly that a firefighter would come in. Like, I could see him stopping to tell her not to climb the thing, but then she tells him she's breaking into somebody else's house, and he helps her do it. That's ridiculous. So Natalie comes and tells Adrien that his time is up with Lila. Lila, before leaving, sneaks a kiss onto Adrien. Adrien, of course, just takes it as a friendly gesture because Adrien is serious levels of thick. Lila sends the message out to everyone. Somehow, I don't know how she did. Like, I don't know how she did this. She sends the photo out to Gabriel and Kagame. She just mentioned in the previous scene she didn't know who Kagami is.
This girl in red is pretty. Who is she?
That's Kagami.
So how did she get Kagami's number? Like, do phones have an option like that where you can just send spam to everyone in the area? And notice she didn't. I'll bring that point up later. There's a very important point here, but I'm gonna remind me to bring it up later. So she sends the photo out to everyone, and that's how Gabriel finds out that there's somebody else in his house. And it looks like she did it on purpose. Gabriel comes out and he reprimands Natalie, and I can't remember the bodyguard's name or if he even has one. Lila tries to play it off, and Gabriel's like, I'm going to use my powers to get rid of Lila. Like, this is interesting to me because, you know, his goal from this point has constantly been get the Miraculous, get the Miraculous, get the Miraculous. Like, he doesn't abuse his powers other than, you know, being a supervillain. But let's pretend we live in a world where Gabriel thinks he's the good guy. He thus far has not really abused his powers. He's used them to either get the Miraculous or try to find out who Ladybug and Cat Noir are or get them off his trail. This is the first time we've really seen him, like, do something personal because he wants to get this girl out of Adrien's life. Gabriel acts like he doesn't know who Lila is for some reason. Like, he knows she's a manipulative person. He knows she's infatuated with Adrien. Like, he knows she hates Ladybug, but in this episode, for some reason, he acts completely surprised. What's that girl's name? Kagame finds out, and she gets so angry. I feel so sorry for Tree-chan because Tree-chan was just standing there and she took out her anger on the nearest object and it just happened to be Tree-chan. He did nothing to Kagame. Kagame finds out and she, like, reveals to, in case she didn't figure it out, I think they made it pretty clear from the ice skating episode. She opens up her journal. There's a picture of her and Adrien, or is it just Adrien? And there's also the rose that Adrien gave her on the episode where they went on a date. And I absolutely ship these two. I love this. I love this so much. And I'm going to say right now, like, Chloe's still my favorite. Chloe is still my absolute favorite. But objectively speaking, I think Kagami is the best character in the show. I 100% feel that. She's a suffering paragon. She goes through... She has to be perfect. When she's not perfect, she feels intense pressure. And, like, we even see that in this episode. Her mom won't let her get on the phone while she's practicing in a skirt for some reason. She's practicing fencing. And when she finds out that somebody else has gotten close to Adrien, close enough to kiss him, she goes on a rampage. Like, she has these extreme emotional weaknesses. She's not a Mary Sue in any sort of way, even though she's one of the most combat capable characters in the show. I love Kagame. She's a fan. I'm so glad they added her to the show, and I much more ship her with Adrien than Marinette, because she has, like, a legit reason to be infatuated with Adrien. They mentioned this in this episode as well. Adrien is one of the few people who knows about the pressures of a paragon. He understands her on that level, and that's why she's crushing on him. Because we saw when they first met, he was able to help relieve those emotions of her, that she doesn't necessarily need to expect that level of perfection from herself. So she gets angry. Hawkmoth feels it, and he targets her, and she becomes Oni-Chan. Not Oni-Chan, Oni-Chan. That's the confusing part, because she's an Oni, and they're just trying to do a play on words, like. But yeah, she becomes this demon-looking thing with a mask and a sword, and her goal is to get Lila away from Adrien. So first thing she does is goes to Adrien. Like, she doesn't do anything. She just goes to Adrien and says, "I'll protect you." Adrien, of course, immediately knows it's Lila. I just burst out laughing at this point. Like, she looks nothing like, sorry, not Lila, Kagame. She looks nothing like Kagame. She looks absolutely nothing like Kagame. Adrien just hears her voice and is like, "Kagame?" Like,
You and I were made for each other, Adrien.
Kagami?
I've complained about this so much, but it's kind of hilarious at this point. But she doesn't do anything. It's just kind of informing Adrien that, hey, there's an Akuma. Same with Marinette. Speaking of which, Marinette did not successfully get into into the aggressed house. I don't know how, because I don't remember if they showed it, but I don't, maybe I looked away when they showed it, but I don't remember Marinette falling at all. Somehow she fell off the trash cans and landed into them. They actually show Lila walking past her, and Lila says she could take a photo, but that would be too easy. And Marinette almost abuses her powers, but Tiki stops her. But somehow Marinette fell off the trash cans, even though they were supposed to be super secure. And then she straightens them up, and as she's cleaning them up, Oni-Chan jumps in front of her, and then Ladybug comes out. Marinette turns into Ladybug. Adrien turns into Cat Noir. So there's Lila, and Oni-Chan finds Lila, and Oni-Chan confronts Lila, saying she's not worthy of Adrien, and that I'm sorry, I'm trying to hold it because Lila says such a ridiculous line here.
I'm really sorry, but I always get what I want. It's not my fault.
Like, that's something it's so, oh my goodness. It's so cartoonishly bratty that it makes Chloe look good. Like, you get, it's not my fault people give me what I want. You freaking lie to everyone, Lila. What are you talking about? Oh my goodness. Oh, before I continue, because I forgot about this scene. While Lila was in Adrien's room, Plag noticed that she was doing all this shady stuff while Adrien's back was turned. And Plag says, "Why do you let her in your room? She lies with every breath and she snoops through your stuff." And Adrien makes up this excuse.
Well, we have no idea what she's looking for.
Perhaps she's just looking to be a little less lonely.
And it annoyed me, but the episode calls him out on it. Because, you know, he's like, "Oh, I'm friends with you, Plag, and you snoop through my stuff." It's like, yeah, because you know Plag's intentions. I'll get more into that later because the episode does call him out on this stuff later. So anyway, Oni-Chan attacks Lila, and she says the only way she won't kill Lila is if Lila gives up on Adrien 100%. Cat Noir shows up, and he says a line that confused the crap out of me when I first saw this.
Don't you think you should ask the lucky guy what he thinks?
I think he was talking about Adrien when he said that line, saying that Adrien was the lucky guy to have two girls fighting over him. I thought he was talking about himself, and I'm like, Cat Noir, you're not lucky, you're unlucky. Like, that's the whole concept that you're going with. Really confused me, but then eventually it clicked. So Cat Noir and Ladybug shows up. Lila is immediately hostile to Ladybug because she hates Ladybug.
I don't need you, Ladybug. I was perfectly capable of defending myself.
They're fighting Oni-Chan, and Oni-Chan reveals her powers. She can mark a target, and when she marks that target, she can teleport to them if there's somebody else nearby with a phone. Because all that person has to do is answer the phone, and then she immediately teleports to that person's location. She swaps places with them, actually. She doesn't teleport, she swaps places with them. But she's fighting Ladybug, Cat Noir, blah, 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 superhero stuff happens, blah, blah, blah. Eventually, Oni-Chan catches up to Lila, and Lila says, "Fine, I will give up Adrien." But the problem is her horn grows when she lies like Pinocchio. And Oni-Chan says, "Oh, hey, you're a good actor, but you're lying. The horn will only go away if you give up on Adrien for good." Lila says, "I can't. I love him so much. The only way I give up on him for good is if you were to kill Ladybug for me." And freaking Hawkmoth is like, "Oh my goodness, this girl is so good. Oh, I'm fangirling. She's such a good villain." I'm like, you know Lila intentionally does things to hurt people. Like, again, I was upset at the episode earlier because they said her lies hurt people, but that's because she's in a world where she can hurt people. It's not just because she's lying. But Lila, like Hawkmoth is aware that Lila like intentionally akumatizes herself. Again, maybe it's because I'm watching certain episodes in certain orders, but this seemed really weird because like most of the episodes with Lila were in season 2 at this point, and we're in season 3. So anyway, so Oni-Chan goes from prioritizing getting Lila to prioritizing attacking Ladybug. Lila pretends like her leg is hurt, so Cat Noir will help her and leave Ladybug with Oni-Chan by herself. And Cat Noir takes her to a firefighter, and the firefighter tells him that her leg is fine. And that's when Cat Noir realizes that this is both Cat Noir and Adrien. They realize that, I should say, this is the Adrien in Cat Noir realizing this, that Lila is legitimately a bad person. This is actually a kind of difference between Chloe and Lila. Chloe, I would say, is a bad person. You know, I don't want to say that, but it's mainly because she doesn't necessarily know better. She doesn't really know how to be a good person, and that's why it's important for Ladybug to set an example, because when she sees Ladybug being a good person and helping her through these situations, she learns what it means to be a good person. So Chloe is, a bad person, but it's because I don't like blaming the influence or the parents or whatever. I always want to say that, but it's because that's the kind of life she's been shown. And now that she's seeing different lives and seeing what people think of them, she understands. Lila straight up doesn't care about that. Lila straight up wants to hurt the people in her way, and she wants to get the people she wants in her life by any means necessary. And Adrien is understanding that now. Adrien also learns, I skipped this part, it's a very important part. Adrien also learns that Kagame loves him. She outright says, as Oni-Chan, she says, Adrien is the only one, he's perfect. It's funny how they phrased it, because Cat Noir compares himself to Adrien and says, why is everybody fighting over this Adrien when I'm right here? Of course, everyone, because Cat Noir is nothing like Adrien, Oni-Chan gets super heated at that, saying he's nothing like him. Adrien's perfection incarnated, and he's the only one she'll ever love. And that's when Cat Noir was like, wait, what?
Adrien is perfection personified. He's the only one who's worthy of me, and the only one I will ever love.
What?
Like, he couldn't figure out that Kagame had feelings for him for some reason. Even though he asked her on a date, he had feelings for her. Like, Adrien, how thick are you? Jeez. Like, I understand the joke of the show is that a lot of times boys are super thick when it comes to this stuff. And Adrien is the thickest of the thick. But good gravy, you asked her out on a date. And you're shocked that she has feelings for you. Like, what? Oh my goodness. Okay, so anyway, Ladybug figures out a way to defeat Oni-Chan. Is actually really clever. She does the lucky charm and it gives her the fire hoses. Guess what? An item that was shown earlier in the episode, because the firefighter helped her tie stuff together with the hoses. Yes! Oni-Chan actually uses it against Ladybug and ties her up to a pole. And the firefighter tells her that the hoses are super tough. So what she does is she gets Lila to her position. Her phone rings and she answers it, and of course that forces her to switch places with Oni-Chan, and Oni-Chan is tied up, so she can't do anything while Cat Noir destroys her sword. So they get her back together, and Cat Noir shows that he's learned something from all this. Marinette, for some reason, learned that she can trust Adrien. I don't know why. Like, Adrien never showed that Marinette could trust him. She just jumped to that conclusion. But behind Marinette, where she can't see, Adrien, and I really love this. I love this so much about this episode. Adrien goes to Lila and says, you can always count on me, but not when you hurt the people I love. Because he's realized, what Plague was telling him, her snooping through his stuff. And he also mentions Natalie and his bodyguard getting reprimanded, that she doesn't care who she hurts when she's telling these lies, when she's doing all this stuff. He's realizing that, and he can't be associated. He can't keep enabling that, because that's what Adrien was doing by letting her into his room and not paying attention to all the horrible stuff she was doing. He was enabling her. He was essentially rewarding her for all the stuff she was doing. And Adrien tends to look the other way when people do bad stuff, but now that he's seeing that other people are getting hurt, and he said specifically the people I love, because it was Ladybug who he was truly concerned about. Now that he's realized that she's hurting other people, he's not going to allow it anymore. However, the episode doesn't end there. Gabriel figures out that he can use Lila to his advantage, and he invites her. Lila says that he invites her into his house. Oh, he calls her, and there's no identification on her phone, but she texted him a photo. Like, the whole texting thing doesn't make any sense. I really don't understand it. But anyway, yeah, he calls her, invites her, and she says that she feels that Adrien is just so trapped in this world because he's overprotected, and she thinks he just needs a friend. And Gabriel, which we know he doesn't really believe her, he lies right back to her and says, yeah, well, maybe we can help each other. So that's the end of the episode. I really love this episode, mainly because of Kagame. I want Kagame and Adrien to be a thing. I know it's not going to happen, but I really want them to be a thing. And Kagame gets great character development. Well, I don't know if it was necessarily development, because she doesn't really change, but they show a lot of Kagame in this. They show her strengths and her weaknesses, and I really love her as a character. Adrien gets character development, much needed character development, because he should not be letting Lila just do this type of stuff. He shouldn't be letting people in general do this type of stuff. Adrien himself holds too much power to let people manipulate him like that. Not only as a superhero, but as Adrien, just as the Super Teen Model Weekly Adrien, he holds way too much power to let people influence him like that. And as Gabriel put it, it's not the first time he's been influenced. He needs a strong moral standing, even if he's going to be good guy Adrien. I didn't really too much like Marinette's development, but whatever. Lila, I am learning. I just don't like the concept of her character, because it's so weird, because I went on this long rant about how I like the bully stereotype. And that's why Chloe is my favorite character. But Lila, no, because of the execution. I don't believe she's a good liar. I think they have to dumb the characters around her down so she can seem like a good person. Now, I still like that Gabriel is going to take her in as a minion of sorts, because I think she makes a good minion. Yeah, I can definitely see her as a minion. I cannot see her as this great villain. Especially when, like, she's backed into a corner and she says, it's not my fault. People just give me whatever I want. It's like, wow, what a limited mentality you have, Lila. Now, I absolutely love this episode, but there are two objective problems with it. I said I was going to come back to something. I don't remember if I did. I hope I did, but anyway. There are two problems with this episode that are objective. They didn't affect my viewing of it, but I did notice it as I was watching. The first problem is that, once again, we have a lack of Chloe. Lila, who is infatuated with Adrien, should not have gone this long without having any interaction with Chloe. Like, that's not just me fanboying over Chloe, okay? Even though I will fanboy over Chloe. It's completely out of character for Lila to be announcing to the world that she's in Adrien's house, hanging out with Adrien, putting pictures of her kissing Adrien, and Chloe not to intervene. Chloe is so protective over Adrien. And that's another thing. She said she told Gabriel he needs someone his age to help him.
What would you do in my position?
I think he needs a friend his age. Someone who understands him, who can protect him from negative influences. Someone you can trust, too.
Like, they're just ignoring that Chloe exists. Chloe was Adrien's only friend for, like, 10 years? For a good long time. She was his only friend. And they're just ignoring that she's already in his life. And Lila's saying Adrien needs somebody his age in his life to help him. Like, I wouldn't be shocked if Chloe actually did have access to Adrien's house. Because the Agresse and the Bourgeois are very close. Like, Gabriel and Audrey worked together. Audrey discovered Gabriel and helped make him famous. So I would think Chloe would be the one exception. It hasn't happened so far, so that's not against continuity. But going this long with Chloe without, like, bottom point, going this long without Chloe interacting with Lila in any sort of way is ridiculous. Like, it's kind of funny. Adrien has a harem at this point. Like, you know, it was just before it was just Marinette and the mean girl, you know, Chloe. Then Lila jumps on, and now we've got Kagame. I mean, Adrien's always been super Mr. Popular with the girls, but with relevant characters, now he's got a harem going on. And technically 5 if you count Ladybug and Marinette as 2 different people. But the other thing that's wrong with this episode, shoot, I can't remember it. Oh, I can't remember it. Well, I guess it wasn't that big of a deal. Maybe I've already said it. I think that might have been. I think it might have been something I already said. Like how Lila's just not that good of a liar or something like that. I don't recall. But overall, like, I absolutely just fan-freaking-tastic love this episode, man. That sentence didn't make any sense. What? I love this episode. It's messing with my brain. So anyway, I will see you guys for the next episode, which is hopefully just as good. This has been Shady Doorags. So long. Farewell. Auf Wiedersehen. Goodbye.